Alice, I know how it is. Go
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank all our incredible panelists, our keynote for coming out. This is a simple conversation on how to navigate the political landscape. A lot of times we strongly encourage people to get out and vote, but we never tell people what we're voting for. So the next series of panels, beginning with this one, we'll be talking with folks about how to navigate that landscape, talking about all the different political roles, how to access them, and more importantly, how to utilize them. A lot of times we'll call our city councilor to help us save our mortgage, or we'll call our state representative to get our son out of jail, but we don't know how to utilize this process the way we're supposed to use it. So beginning today, we're going to change that. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to start with our keynote. Her name is Tanisha Arena, the Executive Director of the Rise for Social Justice. And we're going to get started. On you.
Thank y'all. So we're going to kick this off. And I want to start out by saying that I need these now. I wrote this originally for a Kwanzaa event that was supposed to take place, but COVID was like, yeah, no. So I want to start by saying thank you to the event sponsors, Daryl Moss, for asking me to speak in front of you all today, to our panelists and guests. And I also want to say the name of Miss LaTonia Hood and give honor to her as an ancestor, as we are in this space. Happy 24th day of Black History Month. Hey. For those of you who do not know, I'm Tanisha Arena, the Executive Director of Rise for Social Justice, located right here in Springfield, on School Street in Ward 3. Like I said, I originally wrote this for Kwanzaa. We're past that, but there are definitely some intersections and parallels between Kwanzaa and the politics and policy in the Black community. So here we are. For those who are not familiar, from December 26th to January 1, we come together to celebrate Kwanzaa in our community. And then on that last day, there's that feast, Karamu. While we are past the time of Kwanzaa celebration, we are not past the daily living and embodiment of the principles. I would have also said Merry Christmas at the Kwanzaa celebration, not only for the sentiment, but to get everyone thinking. Consider this your reminder that all holidays are made up, and this holiday was created by and for Black Americans, and many Africans around the world respect and observe it. Only white supremacy compels folks to, well, actually, when talking about Kwanzaa, but they don't say anything about the holidays of their enslavers. For example, who had the day off for President's Day? Some of us did. There you go, right? So FYI, 44 is and will forever be better than 45, and it's our job to hold 46 accountable for all the things he ran on in his campaign. I don't want apologies and performative gestures. I want change, and not Dr. Maya Angelou on the back of a quarter. I want changed laws and policies. I don't care if you bring down a statue, but can you codify a statute that ensures my right to vote? We are all impacted by white supremacy and racism, and that is something we need to remember. For our white allies, accomplices, co-conspirators, and strategic agitators who show up as anti-racist, white privilege doesn't miss you. You can champion Black lives and still reap the benefits of whiteness. Know that, name it, tell your friends, challenge it, and do the work of gathering up your people. I don't want to spend too much time talking about those things because as Black folks, we deserve spaces and places and moments where we can experience gratitude and joy about and with each other and be our full, authentic, radiant selves. We deserve respite from all that seeks to destroy us. We deserve to know our history, our heroes, sheroes, and our traditions, getting away from being told that honoring our ancestors is witchcraft, voodoo, hoodoo, and the devil, but worshiping white Jesus is, let me stop. I'm not here to preach. Shout out to Bishop Swan for snatching up the mayonnaise marauders and Clorox cretins on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As I was saying, we deserve to know our history and traditions, the building blocks of our communities and culture, what gives us strength and contributes to our resiliency. Dr. Maulana Karenga created Kwanzaa in 1966 in response to the Watts riots that had taken place in Los Angeles in 1965. He wanted to bring African Americans together as a community. But why were there riots in Watts? The riots were in response to police brutality because Marquette Fry, a 21-year-old Black man, was pulled over for a DUI. He had failed a field sobriety test, resisted arrest with the help of his mother, and during that confrontation, the police hit him in the face with a baton, and there were rumors that the police had kicked a pregnant woman who was in the crowd that had begun to build. So you see, past is present, and history repeats itself. This was 1965, and the Watts riots were the community's response to police brutality and lack of accountability. It's 2022, and we are facing the same thing right here in Springfield, where officers can brutalize our kids, beat us in bars and lie about it, and murder us in broad daylight when we need help. Orlando Taylor III, I say your name. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court just ruled in favor of the Springfield City Council to enforce the ordinance to establish a civilian review board of police commissioners. That's right. We need change, reform, accountability, and an end to qualified immunity. This impacts our community. Even if he was drunk, even if he did run, even if he did walk away, because even when we do comply, y'all know the rest. When a veteran police officer gets 2 years for the murder of Dante Wright, and there are tears of sympathy for the killer in front of the victim's mother, the judge is crying at having to hold whiteness accountable to give the sentencing, far less than the mandatory 6 to 8 years for such a mistake. When we see internalized oppression and anti-Blackness, we see the danger of white women's tears. We know this country does not love us. The laws and policies seek to destroy us. So what that means is we gotta love us. So what's the news? Abari Ghani, Umoja, to strive for and maintain unity in the family, community, nation, and race. Are we united as a community? How can we leverage politics and policy to strengthen the unity among us? I'm going to say it again. We gotta love us as a collective, out loud and in unison. It is time for our unity to look like owning our narratives and not allowing the tropes of the magical Negro to distract and detract. One person attaining success or because your cousin got a job or your family is good does not change the systems and institutions that harm us all. When it is a face that looks like ours that brings harm to the community, from an organization that wants to tout their diversity, don't allow yourself and your gifts to be used as a pawn in the game of white supremacy. Think about that when you introduce the bill or cast a vote against the interests of your community. Unity in our family, in our community, and in the nation is us naming truths. It is us willing to make sacrifices to hold the line where our dignity, respect, and humanity is violated. It is showing up for each other. Umoja is us united in community, in our Blackness, across all of our different shades, and in the intersections of our lives. These intersections shape us as well as our politics, because the personal is political. And if you want to say you don't do politics, you best believe politics will do you. There are 18,000 people in Ward 3, and that's more than the number of people who voted in the last mayoral race. If we want systemic and institutional change in our city, I'm gonna need y'all to vote. We need to vote. When we do vote, states like Georgia turn blue and conservatives scramble to turn up the suppression. That's how you know your vote matters. Kujichagulia, the principle is self-determination. What does that look like and mean for us here as a community in Springfield? To define ourselves, to name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. Who are we together and who do we want to be? All politics are local and elections have consequences. If we are to be self-determining, that means we must strategize together, move together, and vote together for the changes we want to see in our community. Speaking for ourselves looks like voting as if our lives depend on it, because it does. We have midterm elections coming. I need us to get out and vote like we're at the club or the cookout and the DJ is playing our jam. We want full service grocery store in Mason Square. Can we pull resources and create our own? Connect with community gardens and a community bank to buy the land, build the store and stock it? Where are the Black-owned distribution hubs, truckers, farmers, contractors, electricians, carpenters, and plumbers? Where are the city contracts going to Black businesses? Speaking for ourselves is supporting and electing or being candidates who understand what is at stake for the community because they're part of the community and not just in skin tone. All skin folk and kinfolk. Our ancestors knew it, and we better know it too, because it's not only white folks upholding white supremacy. The line is short to the top for Black folks willing to do white folks' work. I call it plantation politics. You're in the house trying to stay in good with massa, willing to sell out your people and community. But just because you're in the house, we still on the plantation, fool. Yep, I said that. Can we get free? Living under the yoke of racism and white supremacy can and does kill us. Racism has been declared a public health crisis in our city, yet it's what the police department runs on. We live in an environmental sacrifice zone where folks can't breathe. Raise your hand if you or someone that you love has asthma or some other respiratory issue. There you go. And we're still in the middle of a global pandemic. Access to healthy, fresh foods, clean air, water, and mold-free homes leads to better health outcomes, to thriving. And in case you didn't know, this community, our community, is struggling with deep health disparities. If we're going to say there are two Americas, then we have to say there are two Springfields. One where folks have the privilege of not experiencing any of the things folks in the other Springfield are fighting for. You can't show up to a Black Lives Matter rally wearing a Blue Lives Matter mask. To quote Princess Hemphill in an excerpt from You Are Your Best Thing, Vulnerability, Shame, Resilience, and the Black Experience, that we parse healing and politics apart is some of what plagues us. To understand uprisings or to understand protest, you have to understand emotional repression. You have to understand that there are feelings that we have not allowed. Rage forms when grief has not been allowed or honored. What I have experienced in the streets is the convergence and expression of grief that spans generations. Grief that has been silenced and unacknowledged but lives on in us. This is also for so many of us the practice of healing shame or moving beyond the frame of respectability that we have been told keeps us safe but doesn't. What are our politics if not the method through which we create and distribute wellness with what we have? What is culture if not our practices of resilience? Being self-determining is not only about our survival, but also about our ability to thrive. And we deserve to thrive. One, for the hell our ancestors went through. Two, because we're the next ancestors. And three, because we want better for our descendants. So what are the other principles? Ujima, collective work and responsibility, building and maintaining our community together, and making our brothers and sisters' problems our problems and solving them together. It's one thing to know that you're good in your house, but if your neighbor is struggling and facing eviction or foreclosure, we need to care about that, about each other. Again, all politics are local, and these issues impact us collectively. When we need legislation passed to protect us during a global pandemic, are we showing up at the meetings, calling, emailing, and holding our elected officials accountable? Are we more invested in punishing those who are homeless than addressing the policies that created the condition? A blighted neighborhood is what? Ripe for gentrification. When we start talking about property values and taxes, and then it becomes a conversation about school funding, and then it becomes a conversation about resources, and I've said this before, under-resourced communities create the conditions that are ripe for violence. Are we tough on crime or tough on poverty? It's a crime to be poor, a crime to be Black, and we are seeing crimes of survival. Poverty is violence, and folks struggling to take care of their basic needs is not a crime. Let me say it again. Under-resourced communities create the conditions that are ripe for violence, and that violence garners the response of violence from state-sanctioned systems and institutions. Ujima is a call to action, a call to creating a community based on values of equity and respect, and not replicating dominance and superiority. The late Bell Hooks told us that the heart of justice is truth-telling, seeing ourselves and the world the way it is, rather than the way we want it to be. More than ever, as a society, we need to renew a commitment to truth-telling. Are we telling the truth in our community about what's going on, how we see one another, and what we're willing to do to maintain our own sense of comfort? In our collective work and responsibility, we must show up for each other and desegregate our own minds from internalized hatred and oppression. We must stop upholding the very systems and institutions that oppress us because we think it will bring us favor and whiteness. Ask more than just, is it good for you? Is it good for your community? Ujama, cooperative economics, to build and maintain our own stores, shops, and other businesses, and to profit from them together. Share the wealth. I have 5 words. Black and Brown Wall Street. Did you know that collectively we pump over $1 trillion into this economy? Built on and off of us, this economy is us. We shift culture and trends because we are the culture and trends. It may take a little bit more effort until we build up the community, but buying Black and supporting Black businesses builds what we can do collectively. Where you spend your dollars matters. Support community vendors when and where you can. Bank Black and divest from businesses that are anti-Black. When you want books, go see Ms. Z over at Olive Tree because Barnes & Noble isn't about us. And Jeff Bezos is taking our money to play around in space when we have problems here on Earth. Do you need hair products? Sally's ain't it. Do you want art? Go check the creators right here in town. If you're hungry, go to Dewey's or any of the other Black-owned eateries. Like beer, go see White Lion. Support organizations and activists in the community fighting against what oppresses us. Join the Association of Black Business and Professionals. Do you want the local news or need to advertise your business? How about an ad in the Metro Record or the African American Point of View? Need to host an event? How about this space that we're in right now? Event planners, graphic designers, realtors, insurance agents, lawyers, accountants, bankers, contractors, therapists, journalists, beauticians, caterers, editors, facilitators, you name it, we have it in our community. To paraphrase Marcus Garvey from his 1921 speech, if you believe the Negro has a soul, back to Africa, what other men have done, Black folks can do. When we start talking about dollars and cents, there's an inverse relationship to our community struggles and the stock market. If you don't believe me, look it up. At the height of the pandemic in year 1, retirement accounts were lit while our folks were dying. Workers around the world lost $3.7 trillion in the pandemic, and billionaires around the world gained $3.9 trillion, the biggest one-year wealth transfer in history. We lost Bishop Desmond Tutu. And the part left out of his obituary is how he consistently condemned capitalism in its entirety and not just apartheid. I've said it before and I say it again now that I hate capitalism. And I want a system that is caring, that is sharing, that is compassionate. Cooperative economics, share the wealth. Can we get free? Have you ever sat and wondered what your purpose is or the purpose of us as a whole? Amidst the struggle and what it means to be Black in this country, today's purpose is NIA, to make our collective vocation the building and developing of our community in order to restore our people to their traditional greatness. Our ancestors were builders, teachers, architects, mathematicians, theologians, historians, and growers, among other things. To quote the prophet Kendrick Lamar, I got loyalty inside my DNA. We have our ancestors in our DNA, and part of our purpose, bringing the potential that lives inside us to fruition in our communities to create stronger, better Black and Brown Wall Streets, plural, where Black excellence is encouraged, grows, and thrives. We are our ancestors' wildest dreams, not only in our work, but in our ability to rest, to care for ourselves, to prioritize our wellness, and that includes mental health. If our collective vocation is the building and developing of our community to restore our people, we need to address what has harmed us. In over 400 plus years of untreated trauma, we need healing and restoration to undo the damage of trying to contort ourselves and survive in a system that was never designed for us. If we're accused of behaving like crabs in a barrel, have you ever considered that crabs don't belong in a barrel? So when faced with unnatural conditions, you will see survival behaviors. Trauma is the gateway drug, and when our loved ones are struggling through addiction, looking for a moment of respite from the pain, we need to do more than tell them they need white Jesus and to pray it away and talk about them instead of helping. My pastor told me, stay prayed up, go to therapy, and take the medicine if you have to. Our collective purpose is to be better together, to heal and to thrive. Legacy isn't just about what we leave behind, it's also about what we build, and it is our work to build healthy and strong communities. We deserve healing and healthy ways of connecting with one another so our babies and grandbabies can have better of us. We deserve to grow old. We deserve to live lives that cultivate all the love, gratitude, and joy that we can as acts of preservation, resistance, and persistence. As I stated earlier, we are the trendsetters. We are the culture. And not only during Kwanzaa, we are the embodiment of Kumba, creativity. To always do as much as we can in the ways that we can to leave our community more beautiful and beneficial than when we inherited it. Is Springfield better in the places we touch it? There is strength in the diversity and intersectionality of our Blackness, our artistry on murals throughout the city invoking conversation. Remember the letter T in the third Black Lives Matter mural on Worthington Street, and the community conversation about police brutality that followed. What does it mean to be a Black officer in a blue uniform? We tell our stories, our history, our struggles, and triumphs in our creativity. We turn pain into purpose. That's alchemy. When you want a creative space to work in with your peers, go to the ethnic study. Tell them Tanisha sent you and ask for a Black Girl Magic Lemonade. Leaving our community more beautiful and beneficial than when we found it is also about taking care of ourselves and each other, building generational wealth to pass down and creating opportunities for others. Can we create dedicated spaces and places for our creativity to thrive and shine? What happens when we come together to address the problems of our community? Notice I didn't say solve because these are not puzzles. The system isn't broken, it's working as designed. We have the answers inside of us, and it will be these non-traditional ways of doing that free us. One of my most trusted colleagues says, dominance promises what only connection can deliver. We can build a community based on values of equity and respect where everyone has what they need. This brings me to faith, Amani, to believe with all our hearts in our people, our parents, our teachers, our leaders, and the righteousness and victory of our struggle. The late Congressman John Lewis said, do not get lost in the sea of despair. Be hopeful, be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble. Do I have faith in our people? Absolutely. I'm rooting for everyone that's Black. And when I say Black Lives Matter, I mean all of them, the queer ones, the trans ones, because if we're gonna do this, we need to do this. I need our faith spaces and places to be the church and take a stance. If we want Black lives to matter, it must include mine too, because where I'm from, Black queer lives do matter to God. Do I have faith in our teachers? Absolutely. To my friends and loved ones who are Black educators, I see you. I love you and I appreciate you. Navigating in a system of colonized education from elementary all the way up to higher ed, trying to speak truth to power, to teach history, to be truth tellers, and to educate the next generation about dismantling systems and institutions of oppression while working in and being oppressed by those very systems. It takes an extreme amount of resilience and dedication to remain in a space that lauds you and loathes you at the same time. It takes community care and connection. It takes a sense of purpose and a sense of faith. Amani. As I wrap this up, I want us to think about what it means to be a leader in the Black community, who those folks are, what we need and expect, and what we are doing to support, protect, uplift, and even guide them. A great leader creates more leaders and seeks wise counsel. When you're called for movement, are you ready? There are moments in history and there are movements. And the difference between a moment and a movement is sacrifice. If you're someone seen as a leader in community, can other leaders connect with you? Or is it all about you? Why are you here? Are you doing it for clout or because you care about your people? I want the right thing because it's the right thing, and I don't care who gets the credit. I need us to get the message regardless of who we rock with in the streets. Can we all get free? I ask that as a collective people, we move with purpose and intention, embodying the principles of PAHMUSA every day. We can be present with each other, tend to each other, know one another, build and share. We can tear down the systems and institutions that seek to oppress, exhaust, and divide us. Our ancestors knew it, our elders know it, and as they move into the ancestral realm, they're not passing their torches to us, they're lighting our torches so we can do our leg in this liberation journey. It's time to unite as a community in Springfield and beyond, practicing the principles of Kwanzaa, honoring our ancestors, heroes, sheroes, history, and tradition. Habari Ghani, what's the news? Let's all get free. Thank you. I'm gonna take these off in my next role. I'm moderator. So, this one now? This one, okay, all right. So panelists, we're gonna start from this side to this side. Okay, we got two microphones. All right, I'm gonna turn it over this way. You each get 2 to 3 minutes to introduce yourselves, and then we will start with some questions. Councilor Hurst.
Sounds good.
All right.
I'm gonna let my colleague.
Oh, okay, all right.
Go first. I always
Ladies
defer
first.
when I can.
No problem.
As long as we're in agreement.
We're in agreement.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. My name is City Councilor Tracye Whitfield. I'm a city councilor at large in Springfield, born and raised in the city of Springfield, proud product of the Springfield Public Schools. A lot of you already know me, know what I stand for. If not, I'm gonna use your line. You can Google me. That's LaTonia. But I'm just really happy to be here, ready to get into the questions. My background is I have a master's in accounting and taxation. I'm a mother of 2 grown adults. I have a granddaughter who I'm very proud of, a 2-year-old granddaughter Journey. And so I'm on this journey because we have to make this community better for her. And that's on all levels, federal, state, and local government, and it's important. And so I'm really excited to get into this conversation because I got a lot to expose today, and I'm going to expose today. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back to my colleague, Justin Hurst.
See why I let my colleague go first? When you start talking about those powerful leaders in government, there is none more powerful and who is not afraid to speak truth to power than my colleague, Councilor Whitfield. You know, when you're on the city council, you're one of 13. And unless you have 6 other individuals who are willing to ride with you on a particular issue, it is not going to get passed. And someone that I can always count on, and someone who I believe is genuinely invested in our community, is Councilor Whitfield. So I appreciate your service. My name is Justin Hurst, born here in the city of Springfield. I'm an at-large city councilor. I graduated from the Springfield Public Schools. Upon graduation, I went to the University of Virginia. I always knew that I wanted to give back to my community. My father, Frederick A. Hurst, who was the publisher of African American Point of View, and my mother, Marjorie J. Hurst, taught me at an early age that giving back was not an option, but it was something that you must do. And so I knew when I graduated from college, I was going to come back to the city of Springfield to try to impact more individuals than just myself. And so I did just that. I was a full-time educator in the Springfield Public Schools. So I appreciate everything that you said about our educators. It's a tough profession, but we need more folks that look like us in that profession. In addition to that, I went to law school part-time, wanting to impact more people than just those individuals in my classroom. I decided to run for office, I believe, 8 to 10 years ago. I think this is, I'm in my 5th term, just elected to my 5th term. Always invested in my community. I just wanted to give back and impact more people than just those individuals in my classroom. So that's what I pride myself on doing.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? I only have that loud voice when I'm talking at home to my 4 beautiful children. So I am LaTonia Monroe Naylor. I am first a mom of 4 beautiful children. I am a wife of my husband, Pastor Naylor, who's over there. We just celebrated 20 years. And I say that because everything that I do for my family, because of my family. I'm a product of this city. I was born here, I was raised here for most of my life, and I love my city. I love our children, I love our families. I co-founded a nonprofit called Parent Villages, of which I am working diligently on expanding our capacity and our programming to be able to continue to support our young people and our families. I'm also a member of the Springfield School Committee. Through that work, I have been able to sit on the Mass Association for School Committees board as the vice chair of our DEI division, diversity, equity, and inclusivity. I also am on several boards including Leadership Pioneer Valley. I'm active in my church. I believe, we have to have a grounding in something, and that is what keeps me motivated, keeps me solid, keeps me with integrity, keeps me with the ability to say no in this political game when people want you to say yes. I continually am able to rely on my faith. So I am fully committed to this work as a public servant, and I continue to keep my ears open so that I can learn more and listen. So I will try not to talk too much and just answer those questions on tonight, but I definitely know that I don't know everything. So I believe that when we sit in these rooms, it's an opportunity for us to learn just as much as it is for us to share. So thank you for being with us on this evening.
I'm going to defer to our guests. Before I go any further, my brother, City Councilman out of Waterbury, Connecticut. Introduce yourself, please, my brother.
Thank you very much. My name is Vernon R Matthews Jr. I represent the 2nd District of Waterbury. It's similar to, I guess, what's the 13th Ward that's here? Ward 3, I'm sorry, Ward 3. That is based off of property, basically. A little bit about myself. My beautiful wife of 25 years is behind the guy with the orange sweatshirt on. She has her hand up. Roughly about 4.5 years ago, we decided that we wanted to make a change in our community. And we went to a lot of people that are there, and we wanted to do a credit union. Come to find out, a lot of us don't want to deal with us when it comes to money. So I'm gonna leave that there. I'll talk about that later on. But a little bit more about myself. 40 years ago to the day that my father lost his seat, I won his seat back. I was able to share with him for at least 7 weeks, and then I lost him to renal cancer, but he was able to see me win his seat back and keep his vision going for what he wanted for his city and his beloved 2nd District of Waterbury. I am also the oddball on this panel. I am a registered Republican, but I vote for myself, and I have won because Democrats believe in me. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to the state rep.
Thank you, my brother. You were doing real good. Did you put that R up there, man? Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah, Trump he got a lot of strategy. First of all, first giving honor to God, the head of my life, and to PAHMUSA Sam, thank you for reestablishing this and getting it back going. And to DMOS for keeping your dream and spirit alive. Thank you for doing what you do. Tony Bass, doing what you do to PAHMUSA. First of all, it's truly a pleasure and an honor to really be here. And many of you know me, many of you might not know me, but I cut my teeth in helping people. I've been a probation officer for years. I've been a school teacher. I've been a rec leader. I coach basketball. Some of the best that ever come out of here, from Travis to Desi Jackson to Derek Kellogg. We've had it at the Dunbar and all the Rebecca Johnsons and all that we've done. But the thing I've prided myself on is helping people. And I've helped people all of my life and continue to help people. Now, many of you might not like my style, but it's been about not me, putting people before politics. And to this amazing panel, to Justin, known him all his life, Tracye, known him all her life, LaTonia, known all her life. I haven't known you all of your life. I just met you. We have some amazing young people doing really great things in the community. And certainly, we're very proud of you. That Keynote, I want you to introduce me in my next affair. You got me, thank you. You're not from Newton, right?
No.
Okay,
No,
Springfield.
I'm actually from the A60, but I reside right here.
All right, right on.
So,
They had on her website, she's been named to the Women's Commission. And I saw Newton on it, and I go, Women's Commission, give it up. Come on, it's okay. But this is great to all the sponsors who helped put this together, the Association of the Black Businesses and PAHMUSA and the paper and all of you who make this community up. There's one thing I'm gonna say, that we live in some very difficult days. We've lost some great people in Springfield. We've got great people who are following. And, you know, the beat goes on. Hollywood has a saying, the show must go on. We've been hurt. We've been devastated. We lost some great ones, from Sophie to Ron Johnson, to Ray Jordan, to Henry Twiggs. It is amazing. And as we continue to move, one thing we must do, we have to come together. We just have to, no matter what your denomination is, what you think about each and every one of us, what we think about each other. At the end of the day, we will all hang together or we hang separately, but we're gonna hang. And it's incumbent upon all of us in this room to make sure at the end of the day, when we leave the room, we have an agenda. And it's about the people of this city, not about our own personal agenda. It's about how do we make the community a much better and stronger community. There's a lot of money floating around Springfield. And I want to commend Tracye and Justin. They've been on it, on the ARPA money. We have the rescue money. We have state millions of dollars. You know what? There was a great conversation going a few weeks ago. We've stopped. We have stopped talking about ARPA. We really have. We tried and tried. They tried. We tried. And all of a sudden, you just keep banging your head against the wall. All of a sudden, it stops. The money keeps coming. This is a game changer. Once in a lifetime. We will never, ever see this in our lifetime again. The kind of revenue to make the programs better. I was on the Zoom yesterday with LaTonia doing her program. Families Against, what is it? Parent Villages. We had a great Zoom meeting on yesterday to make sure that we get the resources to help our people. Resources are there. And the last thing, mental health. We have to pay really attention to what's going on with mental health. We're losing. COVID-19 exposed what we already knew all of our lives, the lackluster in healthcare, mental resources, education. It exposed. So let's pull together. I'm really excited to be here. DMOS, these dialogues, it's better. There's a master plan going on in Mason Square that we all want to take part of. You're going to hear more details, 5 to 10 year plan that we all have to be part of to make it work. So with that being said, Madam Moderator, the show is all yours.
all right, thank y'all. So I'm hearing about this money. So my first question is, where's the money? Yay.
So there's a lot of buckets of money out here, but if you're talking about ARPA funding in the city of Springfield, so the city of Springfield was awarded $123 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds, for those who don't know what ARPA stands for. We were awarded this money because of the Black and Brown community being most disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 virus. So we started off with 123 million. We're probably down to about 50 million since the mayor's administration created another bucket of money and put 12 million. He created a Build Back Springfield program, and put 15 million of the ARPA funds in that. Now, Councilor Hurst and I was on a meeting today, and we talked extensively about the Build Back Springfield program. That program is not designed for any of us to succeed. Okay, that program is designed for contractors that know how to get historic tax credits, who have the capital to be able to obtain this money. Now, this funding can be used to acquire and rehab buildings in the historic neighborhood. So you have to be a historic builder. And there's not a lot of Black and brown people out here in the city of Springfield doing that. And so to me, this money was designed by 3 white men, the mayor, Tim Sheehan, and TJ Plant, the CAFO of the city of Springfield, to fund initiatives, probably buildings that they purchased with ARPA money, right? 2.3 million was the first thing spent out of the ARPA bucket to purchase buildings. Those are probably the same buildings that they're going to get a contractor, give them 50% of this money. They're going to get additional tax credits to fix these properties, and then they're all going to profit off of it. That's not going to happen for us, for the Black and brown community. Let's talk Black community right now. Okay, that's not going to happen for the Black community. They don't have stipulations of equity in their RFP contracts to say, okay, well, if the Black community isn't quite ready because they don't have access to capital to obtain this funding, the 50%, because we might not have the other 50% to obtain this funding, well, let's have an equity clause that we make sure that a certain amount of the building construction goes to Black contractors. There's no equity clauses in any of the city of Springfield's contracts, RFPs. And so if you look back at who's getting the RFPs, it's the same, probably, what, 1%? Like the 1% that happens throughout the nation, that's getting these contracts. And so when we look at ARPA fund, those are 2 programs that were built by the administration that we keep voting in, the ones that vote, that we keep voting in, and they're putting aside sets of money that came to this community because our folks were impacted, our folks are dying, yet they're benefiting off of it once again. So we need to know what's happening with our funding in the city of Springfield. In addition, some of the ARPA fund is going to pay for staff. We've been asking, Councilor Hurst has been asking over and over and over again to see how much we are paying on staff costs, because we did have to staff the department and it's needed. However, what, 1 senior application came in so far? 1. Since ARPA happened, 1 senior application to obtain it. It hasn't been approved. Few households, they haven't been approved. This is who the money was supposed to be benefiting. Now let's talk about the benefit, and then I'll move on to someone else, okay? So when they write for money on a state level, so let's talk to State Rep Bud Williams specifically, and any other state rep that's listening, when they build these buckets of money, they'll specifically say if it's going to the LGBTQAI plus community, if it's going to the Latino community, but it's never built in to say this money is going specifically, not never, rarely, built in to say, let's give this money to the Black community. They say, let's give this money to programs that help this disadvantaged population, but not for us to profit from it. And so we need to put our state reps as well as our local elected officials at the hot seat and say, why aren't we building equity into everything that we do? Why aren't we looking out for the Black people and saying, no, we need this bucket of money to go specifically to the Black neighborhood, to Black contractors, to Black programs, not disadvantaged. So, okay, we got disadvantaged housing, right? We got a disadvantage in housing. So a white contractor can come up, build the housing, but it's helping the Black population. So we help the population that we targeted. Now I can go on about money because there's MGM funds and there's a lot of other buckets that I can talk about, but I'm gonna pass it on because we're gonna keep going.
Listen, I'll be real brief because I know if not, and school committee woman Naylor is gonna check me. I'll echo the sentiments that Tanisha said earlier. The system is working exactly how it is designed to work. And we, as elected officials, have to call it out. And it needs to be more than just Councilor Whitfield and Councilor Hurst calling it out.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we say, well, that's a local issue. It has far-reaching impacts at the state level as well, and vice versa. So when we talk about coming together and supporting one another, we need to support our legislators at the state level, and then the state level in turn needs to identify the issues that are happening locally, and they need to speak out on them. Unfortunately, we've been conditioned to settle for pennies on a dollar. And so as opposed to going for the whole pie, we're content with a piece. And so I think one of my biggest frustrations as I look at other elected officials is that we get content with a very little piece of the pie, knowing that this, especially this ARPA money, was designed for us to benefit. We need to ensure that it's going to our communities and that our communities are benefiting from this money. And if it's not happening, then we need to call it out, and we need everybody to call it out.
I think they answered that question pretty fairly. I'm gonna see if State Rep has anything he wants to say about that.
I know he does.
Thank you. And it's been said, and let me, we're talking to family, have real talk. And through the years, every time something happens, Black folk always on the bottom of the totem pole. And Councilor Hurst is right. Every time we try to say specifically for Black, it's always shot down. And we don't make a lot of noise about it.
Right.
Disadvantage, people of color, that's all code, which means everybody, including Black. So if you really look at it, all the movements that have gone through this country, women's movement, call it right out, they've benefited greatly on the backs of Black people. What we need to say exactly what we have said, the Black and Latino caucus, we push this. We push it, but you know what happens? The community doesn't push it. Every time we get an opportunity to say Black, we include everybody under the sun with us when we talk. We always do. But you know what? When the other groups talk, they don't include us. Very seldom. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions on any other ethnic group, any other people of whatever persuasion you are, but we need to put ourselves first. And really strong talk, because Councilor said one thing. We all need to work together. I need to do a better job of supporting them, and they need to do a better job of supporting me, because I saw what the mayor did in terms of that pool of money that he put out. And we know this money was intended and raised on the backs of the poorest communities in the Commonwealth, the urban areas, the gateway cities, who had the most devastation for COVID-19, Omicron, and Delta. And that money is specifically for us. And you know what? Shame on the administration, shame on Baker, shame on Sarno, because we talk to them and we tell them. But you know what? Politics gets in the middle of it. Because when we go downtown, we ain't having no group of people with us. Tracye and Justin will be out there banging away. And we'll have a big crowd. And we'll say, all right, we're going to meet on the steps of the city hall to go see the mayor. How many are coming? Well, we're all going to be there. How many people show up? Really, think about it. We're only as good as the people behind us. And that's what they know. We're not going to vote, as you said, Mr. Moderator. You said we're not gonna vote, and they know, they hold us accountable. That doesn't make it right or wrong. But we need to do a better job of working together. That's all I'm gonna say. And they're absolutely right. I'm gonna say it again. The state, we have $2.8 billion left to put out in the community. That's a lot of money. But if we don't work together, they're gonna dilly-dally, they're gonna do the numbers, and we're gonna be at the end of the totem pole. But we're gonna do a better job.
Can I ask a question? Yes. I can address, with that being said, State Rep, so why do they get what they want, being elected officials, and we as, people of color elected officials can't get what we want?
Just exactly what I said. Because we have to be able to hold them accountable. And you keep on electing the same old people to do the same old thing. They call that insanity.
That's right.
And that's what happens. And hey, Cyril's a nice guy. Excuse me, we're having a nice conversation. He's a nice guy. I want results, is what I want. And what we have, we don't have the results, is all I'm saying. So we need to do a better job of letting them take us serious, us as a community, because it's all about the least of us. That's what it is. And let me tell you, they don't mind talking a good game, rubbing your head, telling you look good, you smell good. At the end of the day, I found out in this business, folks are really good till it comes to cutting the pie and giving you a piece of the action. What I meant was it comes down to giving you money. Then all of a sudden they get very serious. And they said, oh, maybe not this time, Joe.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Now I'm warmed up. I was a little cold at first. So one thing I want to add to that is they get used to not wanting to cut the pie of power as well. It's not just about the money, it's about the power as well. And so a lot of us have, because we don't pay attention to politics, we've allowed ourselves to continue to get sucked into what looks nice and fluffy on the outside, but really people are evil and conniving and manipulative, and they want what they want for their people, and they could care less about what we need for our people. And so we can sit in a room and you can vote in some of the right people, but if you don't have enough votes, then it don't matter. Because I've sat on the right side of the law, or the right side of equity, or the right side of morale many a days and lost the vote. And it doesn't matter if people don't know when they look at the headline and see school committee did X, Y, Z. They don't know. LaTonia Naylor said no. LaTonia Naylor didn't agree with that because most people don't follow politics and learn what it is that's happening. And so it's very important for us to, after we vote, first of all, if you don't vote, don't even talk to me. I don't want to hear what you got to say. If you don't, no, talk to her and get registered. If you have not voted, I don't want to hear about what you got to say, because to me, you had your first opportunity to say something. You had your first time to say something, which is your vote. Your vote is the reason why we keep getting people in office that are continuing to vote for things that, like having police cameras in our schools and not caring that the police have 24-hour access to our cameras. Now, if people do something after they talk, after they pay their taxes, after they vote, they sit in the rooms when we're having these conversations. They sit in these subcommittee rooms when we're having these conversations. Then now you can influence what really happens. Because now you can hold that person accountable that didn't pay attention or didn't read their information or didn't study and do the research as to how is it going to affect my Black son. Whenever I vote on something, I think about my son. I got 3 beautiful girls, but I think about my son, because he's the one that's going to have the hardest time out of all my kids. He's the one that's going to have the hardest time. He's an honor roll student. He's a good kid. He's class president, all that good stuff. But when a police officer sees my son, they don't see that. They see a Black boy and they're intimidated. So whenever I make decisions, I'm thinking about him. And so I'm inviting you that have a lot to say to sit in a room when we're making these tough decisions, so that people can know that people are paying attention, and you can't get away with throwing our kids under the bus and letting them get ran over a couple times and say, oh, well, good for them. They should have had somebody advocating for them. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of sitting in the rooms voting for things and people don't show up when we have our budget hearing meetings, when we have our different conversations on very controversial topics and nobody shows up. So I'm a little, emotional right now, but that's because, again, I'm thinking about my baby and I'm thinking about what he's going to have to go through. And I'm tired of it. And so I want us to vote. I want us to get out there. I want us to register. I want us to do all that. But I want us to show up to the meetings. Show up when it's time to show up. Show up to the public speak outs. Speak out. Talk. Let somebody know that you're listening, that you're hearing, that you're paying attention to what's going on. Because when you start to do that, all of a sudden, people start to vote a different way. Not because they agree with you, not because they like your child, but because they don't want to lose their seat. So now they start to vote a little bit differently. And I don't care if that's why you voted with me, as long as you voted with me so that my kid is taken care of. So that's what I'm gonna say for now.
Down in Connecticut. Unfortunately, I haven't had that problem. I'm the co-chair of Good Jobs, which makes sure that Blacks get the construction jobs in the city of Waterbury or the surrounding towns. I've also had the pleasure of getting some of the bag of ARPA, of the 185 million that we got. I was able to get a decent amount in my district, and it's still able to get money for it. But like everyone else has said, if you don't get out there and speak your mind, nobody's going to know what's going on. Because I've literally had people tell me, "Oh, I'm gonna be at this meeting that you guys are going to have," and nobody shows up. You're the only one standing there. You have pressed everything, and you look, it's embarrassing because you want us to fight for you. You want us to do what's right for the community, but you don't come out. And in order for us to know what you guys want, you have to show up. Cause hell, because that's the only way it's going to be done. Cause hell and let them know that we're not going to stand for it. We're not going to stand for it. I don't stand for it. Trust me. Google Vernon R Matthews Jr. and you will see how many times I've been in the paper. I called my own party racist. I've called the mayor racist. So I have no problem pointing out who's bad and who's good. If you're not doing right for your city, get out of it. I represent an area that's predominantly all Black. And there's 2 other people that sit with me that are the same color as me. You can't find them anywhere. I'm there.
And I wanted to clarify something. When I said don't call me, I didn't mean don't call me. You can call me. But what I meant was I wanted to clarify it because I just realized based on the feedback, the way that it came out, I didn't mean don't talk to me if you don't vote. What I was saying is vote, but use your voice first. Don't only come to us and complain about things, but come to us because you've already put forth the first effort to actually do something to say, hey, I'm for change. I'm for you. I'm for what you stand for, what have you. Now we can move a little further. That's what I want to clarify. Thank you.
Can I ask a question, Tanisha?
Yes.
All right. We had this get together today so we can talk about how regular folks can navigate this political landscape. The reality is, if I'm not a member of school committee, if I'm not a part of what's going on downtown, then I have no idea what's going on downtown. If I don't know what the actual function of the city council is, then I can't come out and support anybody at city council saying they're with the state rep seat. I have no idea what state legislators do. So how do we flip that so you guys can begin to educate us on what the roles are? Talk about what the role of a city councilor is, how we access a city councilor, and what we should be accessing city councilors for. Same thing with the state rep seat, same thing with school committee. There are times when there are like really critical issues we read about in the paper because we don't hear about it until it hits the newspaper. So the thing is, a lot of times we sit in these rooms and it's like the Black community gets chastised for things that technically we're not responsible for. When we vote for someone, we expect our spokesperson to represent us the same way an attorney would. Your job is to speak for me, represent me, and keep me apprised of everything that's going on so I'll know when to be there, when to wear my good clothes, and when to wear the bad clothes. So talk to us about how we navigate that process downtown and in the State House. If we were in Waterbury, it's no different. So let's talk about how do we navigate it? How do we support you? And how do we know, just talk about that. I'm going to stop right there.
Well, Daryl, I think one way to get educated is forums like this.
Okay.
And a lot of times when I'm asked, I'm there. People see me at a lot of places because I'm there to educate. We can be called, emailed. It gets overwhelming. I'm going to say that. We're on a lot of boards. We work. We have families just like everybody else. And sometimes the best way for us to get the information out at large is to write a press release. And so when we were talking about property taxing, I'm on different meetings. We're on the radio station. We're like, your property taxes are going to increase. We need folks to email the mayor. We need folks to call City Hall. We need folks to let him know that we want more relief because we have the funding to give our seniors and our low-income families and people on a fixed income relief, and the mayor would not do it, and he wouldn't do it because I requested it. That is not a nice person. A nice person will pick up your phone calls. A nice person will email you because you want to work with your colleagues in government. The mayor ignored me. He wouldn't pick up my calls. I had viable solutions to give him to avoid property tax increases for our community, for all the city of Springfield. Yet he would not have a conversation with me, but he'll have a conversation with my white colleagues all the time. I don't care what they do. I don't care what type of arguments they get in. He will have a conversation with them. He will even have a conversation with some of the men on the city council. And so, yes, I called him out. I said it was a racist, probably sexist act. Right? That's not a nice person. So he might be nice in some people's eyes, but when you're not protecting all the communities in the city of Springfield that you were elected by, that you were elected to do right for, and you keep doing backdoor deals and making arrangements with certain folks in the community, that is not a nice person. I had to get that out. But if you guys want answers, you got to ask the questions too. Like, we all got to be accountable to do our part. It's not just based on elected officials to try to go to everything, to be at everything, to get the information out. Folks got to come out too. Folks got to ask questions too. It's hard to reach everybody.
That wasn't the question. What I'm saying is just talk to us about the basic function of a city council.
Well, a city council,
That's
you want to talk about the basic functions?
I can do whatever.
All right, you got the 8 years of experience, because what I heard was, this is what I heard, part of your question, Daryl, was we can't put all the blame on the folks in the community. It's our responsibility to educate too, and I agree with that. But I'm telling you the techniques that I personally educate the community. I do press releases, go on social media, go on talk shows, come to panel discussions like this.
It wasn't a personal attack on
No,
anybody.
I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you what I do.
The exchange has to go both ways. In
Right,
order for us to support
exactly.
you, we need to know. So that's why I'm asking
So
the question.
you're holding us accountable. We also got to hold the community accountable. Like, we all got to play our part together. It's not us versus you versus me. We got to work together to get the work done. But if you want to know the basic functions of a city councilor, I'm going to pass it over to Councilor Hurst, and then I'll come back and tell you about some of our subcommittees.
Thank you.
So I think one of the most basic functions is that we need to be an advocate and a voice on behalf of the community. So we need to be entrenched in the community and know what it is that we're advocating for. And then we need the community to reach out to the city councilors so we know what issues you're passionate about and what issues that we can bring to the forefront. To Councilor Whitfield's point, I actually think that this particular city council has been as transparent as you can possibly get in terms of where it is that we stand on issues and conveying to folks what is happening within our community. I know Councilor Whitfield on a regular basis writes press releases. I feel like that's the only way in which I can get my message out to the community in terms of what is right and what is wrong, to hopefully head off some of this nonsense before it even gets started. And so you'll constantly hear from the two of us, but we also need folks to reach out to those individuals who you're not hearing from. Because what happens is when you start to do good work, people always come to those same individuals to do more good work. And the reality is it's a part-time job. Handling every single issue that everybody has is just a daunting task as much as we try. And so we need folks to put pressure on those other individuals who are remaining silent on these difficult issues. We all know who they are, or who are kowtowing to the mayor because they want pennies on a dollar when our community needs much more than that. In terms of the role of the city council, though, we pass the budget, we create laws, and we deal with, we're responsible for special permits and zone changes. And so if you're looking to put marijuana, if you're looking to put a biomass plant in the middle of, one of our neighborhoods, you're gonna have to come before us for a special permit. My hope is that, like we have done, is we're gonna decline it. You wanna put a marijuana dispensary in a particular area in the city of Springfield, you're gonna have to come before the city council for a special permit. So in a nutshell, trying to think about rules of the road. So if there, you want a stop sign on your particular street because, folks are going too fast, or you want us to reduce the speed at a particular, on a particular street, you can come to us and ask for that. What was it? Someone just wanted, Edgewood Street. They wanted it to be a one-way because folks are tired of the traffic coming back and forth. You need to come to us and ask us and let us know that you want it to be a one-way, and we can work to change things like that. So I hope that helps to answer your question.
It answered. Thank you.
And one thing that I wanted to mention about special permits, one thing that Councilor Hurst and I are doing is when folks come and they want to get a building and they want to put apartments in, and it's the same old players, what we're asking is that they tell us what they're giving back to the community. Are you subcontracting with Black contractors? How are you helping us? You've been getting buildings and properties in the city of Springfield for over 20, 25 years. Yeah, you give nothing back to the community. And they're putting these buildings in high crime areas, right? And they're not fighting the crime in the area. And so they are being slumlords, yet they get city funding. And because I do my research on the funding, they get city funding to do this. And so there are programs out there that we don't even know about, that I didn't even know about. And they're going to these same developers and these same contractors that's not giving back to the community at all, not through mentorship, not through giving direct funding to the crime areas. No way. They're not paying for extra police detail, nothing. They're just letting the crime on your street, with a rise for social justice, they're letting the crime just continue to happen, and they're not giving anything back. So I've been putting them on blast. And every single time a contractor comes in front of us, I'm going to ask, what are you giving back to the community? Who are you hiring to do these projects? And are you getting money from the city to help build these projects? And so we can deny those special permits. However, when Councilor Hurst says we need our colleagues to step up, there's other colleagues of color that you never see on these panels. Never. And so we need to start asking them, where are they at and what are they doing?
So I'm going to insert a few things, and I also have a question from audience online. So I heard about, and yes, so we're going to get to all these questions. City councilors that look like you that ain't here, I said it, all skinfolk and kinfolk at me. These are the things that matter. We talk voting. This is why you live in Springfield. I heard somebody say, I pay taxes, but I need you to vote. I need you to care about these things and know what's going on. Like we know what's going on with Kim and Kanye and all that other nonsense, because it matters. It desperately matters. And somebody said, well, his base, he got voted in. By who? Who did that? And I'm going to talk to you as the executive director of an organization where I pretty much have free reign to say what I want as truthfully as I do. Because if you call my board president and say, you know what Tanisha said, white supremacy, she's going to say, why are you a racist? Click. There's something freeing about that. So it's like the board is my boss. They're satisfied with my performance. Y'all are his boss. If you're not satisfied with his performance, what you going to do? You better vote. That's what I'm talking about, because in my humble, maybe not so humble opinion, Clapperwood ain't going nowhere because, well, he's satisfied with her performance, and he ain't going nowhere because his base is satisfied with his performance. So if you big mad about the mayor, what you gonna do? Because city council, they can only do but so much, and they're also elected. And if there are folks that you never see where these things that matter, they got voted in too. So we do have that responsibility to know what's happening. Just like they have the responsibility to get that information out, but we also have the responsibility of looking for it, to care about what's happening, because it does matter. So that's the question. I'm going to get around the room, I promise. Can you ask a question about engaging voters and the lack of trust in the system, considering the fact that we have 155,000 residents, 110,000 are registered, and in local elections, only about 10 to 15,000 come out. And that's why I said there are 18,000 people in Ward 3 and only about 15,000 people that voted. So who wants to take this one?
1,500.
1,500 people in the
1,500.
last mayoral race, about 15,000 people voted.
Yeah, but you said in Ward 3.
In Ward 3, there are 18,000 people.
Right.
That's eight,
Yeah, 1,500.
right, what I'm saying.
Yeah, but you said
15,000 people voted in the last mayoral race.
Overall.
Total. But there are 18,000 people in one ward in the city of Springfield. So
Right.
what is everybody else doing? That's my question. I live here too. Like, listen, you can complain. But the strongest thing that you can do with your complaint is vote. Like I said, it's your jam. Oh, shoot, we got to go vote. Come on, y'all. That's how this changes. And I swear, if you think your vote doesn't matter, why do they bomb churches for when they run the voter registration? Why is the suppression happening right now? Because that's the rules to this game, the playbook. That's the founding fathers, the framers, whatever you want to call them. That's how they set this up. We're going to vote because we don't want a monarchy. This is what we're going to do. But then when you breed people to do your work and then they outnumber you, like it's still 8-1 in South Carolina. It's like, oh, well, we can't win. The math ain't mathing. Cheat. That's literally what's happening. They're cheating. They're cheating because they can't win. Your vote is that powerful. So I kind of agree with LaTonia. Like, listen, don't talk to me if you ain't voting. Like, get ready for me. Come see me. Come see me. And we can handle that. But that's how this changes. If you want change in Springfield, I need you to vote. I need you to vote as the ED of a right. Like, I'm saying that. They can't do this by themselves. I'm gonna stop being the moderator. I'm at the
You're on the panel now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Daryl. I'm sorry. So what can we do for? All right, here we go. What's happening down in that?
So the best thing you can do is you have to find out when the last time they voted. And in my hometown, we go 4 cycles back. So if you haven't done anything in 4 cycles, you're removed from the roll. It doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, Independent, unaffiliated. You are removed from the roll because you're considered inactive. So now when you decide, okay, well, I don't want Trump in office, so I'm gonna vote for Biden. You think you're registered. You're not registered because you haven't done anything since Jimmy Carter. So if you haven't done nothing since Jimmy Carter, how the hell are you gonna say, oh, I vote, I vote, I vote? You're not doing anything but just sitting there jaw jabbing. And that's what we have a tendency to do is jaw jab. Like you said, it's the gym. Make it like the Last Supper. Yeah, everybody needs to be there because the only way anybody's going to eat at the table is you get your butt out there and vote. And if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, I don't care what color they are, get rid of them. Because just like everybody else here gets elected, I get elected. You can fire me the next time. Hey, guess what I am? Former Alderman Vernon Matthews. So if you want to change it, you can change it. The power to vote is wonderful, but nobody uses it because they're scared of it. Or if I vote, oh, that my person isn't going to win. Or if I go, the other person's going to win anyway. Well, how I want to know, how is that going to happen if you went in to vote? There's been a lot of elections that have been won. 1, 2, 3, 4%.
Every vote matters.
Every vote counts. Every vote counts. So, and that's coming from a Republican.
Okay, let's get around this room. Okay, so Mrs. Matthews.
I would also say just don't be complacent. Sometimes you see somebody in the seat for years, they just don't bother researching, they just been there for years, but vote for them because they've been there, they're not doing nothing in that seat. Research, see what they're doing. They haven't done nothing, get them out, get somebody else that's gonna actually work for you, do something for you. Don't be complacent with it. There's people that are elected year after year, or, term to term, that are doing nothing because everybody sees, oh, we know who that is, it's gonna vote for them. They're not doing nothing, don't vote for them. Get somebody else in there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just because they look like us, that.
Exactly.
The gentleman behind you, and then,
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to ask a question to all of the legislators. Just recently, Tuesday, the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts determined that Mayor Sarno has to appoint a 5-person committee for the police commission, right? And so we've had a police commission with no power for years. Now that the police commission is going to have to select 5 people, we want to make sure, since he's always throwing Mr. Jackson's name up when he wants to do something, he shows Pastor Gail Hill's name up when he wants to do something. Now that he has to appoint a commission, will he replace those people now? That they're gonna have power to fire, hire, and make decisions. What I'm asking to the State Representative Bud Williams, will you stand with us in the community to voice our concerns that Mr. Jackson and Pastor Gail Hill not be replaced now that he has to make this decision? And because one of the things that we have not tried is to come together and stand in a unified force with one voice, because what that shows the community that's full of apathy. You have a community of people who are starving, don't have jobs, children in gang violence. There's so much with white supremacy and systematic racism. We have a school system here in Springfield, Massachusetts, that has no nonfiction books that promotes African people in a positive light. Yet we have a superintendent who makes $284,000 a year around a school system with a median income is $30,000. Whenever the mayor does what he does, the Black representatives do not show up together to show the community that there's unity. So will you stand with us to make the mayor aware that we know, and for him not to try his underhanded tactics?
Thank you, Minister Stokes. Great presentation. Absolutely. And I think I was part of the city council. I think I was part of the city council in 2016 that we voted for the police commission at the time. Then we voted to override the mayor's veto. So the law has been upheld. We always believed in it. Absolutely. I'm one step ahead of you. Absolutely one step ahead of you. And I think that C. Jackson, Gail Hill, and some other qualified individuals. But absolutely. And what we have to
What I'm going to ask is, when can we get together to form the community, and then we all come out, and because City Hall belongs to the public, we can go up to the mayor's office and express our grievance to him as a unified force, which will let people know that we are together and that we support all of you. And because with the people, we have the power. People don't vote because they're not excited.
Exactly.
And so if we excite the community, if we're out there in the streets, people will vote. People right now don't want to vote because the question they're asking is, who am I voting for?
Okay.
Why am I voting? And so that plays a part in people in despair saying, I don't care. And so it's on all of us to energize the community, to make them interested in what's going on. And so Daryl had this point about leadership. We're in the PAHMUSA. Look behind you, the Black Power movement. There are people who galvanize the community. And look, you might lose a job. You might not get elected. There's going to be some difficulties with this. But we have to remember the legacy in which we come from. We're more than conquerors. We have got to stop being afraid of white people and having relationships with white people and their fragility. And we got to stop standing with Dominic Sarno Every time he does something, he'll call one of his favorite Negroes. They'll come out, take a picture with him, and it sends a message to the community that we're all, that we co-sign what he does.
I'm gonna answer the first part of your question, which, you know what? No, you're all right, Minister. You're on a roll, you're all right, Minister. But I think, Justin, this police commission can be a rallying point for this community.
Yes.
It can be this could be really the first time that we're all gonna be on the same page. Because I agree with you, Minister, and everyone in this room, that we have a lot of great people. You might have some great recommendations too. You might want to serve on that police committee. It's gonna be 5. The law is very clear. The mayor names the 5 individuals. It's, he's,
That was a question that I did say I was asking you to address.
It's just, he just names, just like Joe Biden said, I'm gonna nominate the next Supreme Court justice. I'm gonna nominate the 5 people. That's the law. Crystal clear. City council they can make recommendations, no approval, he names the people. They created the situation with the police commission. That's the body. They do I think he did some of the guidelines, Justin, he writes some of the script and all that, and the powers and. He appoints. No, yes or no. That's the power of the mayor. That's who the mayor is. That's okay. We're gonna make recommendations and we need to get together. We'll talk.
Yeah.
We're gonna rally and we want some good folks on there, especially C and some other folks, and anybody, you might have some other recommendations here. I don't know, maybe Daryl might want to
If they
serve.
want me to do it, I'll do it.
Stokes. But you're right. That's it. Mr. Stokes, we will be talking about that. Good point, man. Rob, I think, but thank you. Yeah, we're gonna get together on that one.
Wants to respond, and then Rob, I got you. Rob has a question.
I'm not gonna be as long as Mr. Stokes, but my few points of opinions are those expressed by me and not of those just kidding. So, what I'm most interested in is the paradigm shift. Looking at policy over party, and I've heard some comments on the panel about party, or you're this party, that party. I don't care about the party. It's one snake with 2 fangs.
That's right.
So what are we gonna do to shift the movement? Because like what you said, there's 18,000 people in one ward. One ward can shift the dynamic and the power in the city. One ward. So what are we gonna do versus talking in platitudes that I hear often? I'm going by my own observations and my own experience, but a lot of us, like you said, kinfolk ain't skin folks, speak in platitudes because it looks good. I don't care who's coming to the funeral. I don't care who's coming to the cookout. There's enough empirical data and experience when you're looking at a candidate to be able to tell if this candidate is for you. If you're with somebody and they're constantly cheating on you and you're still surprised that they're cheating, that's a problem. So what are we gonna do to get out of this Stockholm syndrome?
Okay, so I'm speaking from my views and opinion, but I think that all of us have the ability to change someone's mind. I think all of us have the ability to talk to our family and our friends and our neighbors and tell them why it's important to vote for a particular person and why it's important not to. Now, the only way we're gonna get some new appointees is to have a new mayor. And I'm just gonna put it out there.
That's right.
This same old mayor has done the same thing over and over and over again. There's 2 of us in here that work for the mayor. 2 of us got intentionally fired by the mayor in the Black community. You don't see that happening. 2 of us, and I'm including myself because I did work in finance, and I'm including someone else that I think all of you know got fired as well. This is not a good person. And so if we keep on voting for this mayor because he show up at every photo opportunity because that's all he's doing for our community, and half the time he sends a representative because he doesn't want to be there.
Right.
If we keep voting him in and expecting different results, we're all insane. And I think that's been said before. And so the only way that we're going to get the change and the appointments that we want is to appoint a new mayor. Okay. But what we can do is work together and tell him what we want. So every meeting I go to, I say, email the mayor about this appointment, tell him we want transparency. We want to know what the process is when when the appointments are happening, but we need to flood his phone, his emails every day. msarno@springfieldcityhall.com. msarno@springfieldcityhall.com.
That's not it.
That's not it, what is it?
DSarno
Oh,
at
D.
SpringfieldCityHall.com.
Okay, D Sarno. I thought it was M.
No,
It could be
D
D, it
Sarno.
could be M.
Make sure you
D
get the right
Sarno
place.
at SpringfieldCityHall.com, and we flood the emails and saying we want transparency on how this board is being selected. We don't want the same old players. We need some new, fresh ideas out here. I mean, we do need experience. Experience is always nice, but when you got people that you know are kowtowing to the mayor and you see them on every single thing, we know what that's about. They're going to do whatever the mayor wants anyway. So we need to make changes. He's there for photo opportunities, and he's definitely funding his community. His community is not our community, folks. Now, I'm just gonna say it plain and clear. I had a young family when I worked for the finance department, and they did not care one bit about my family. They set me up, and I was a great worker. They didn't even tell my principals that I was being let go, that I was working for at the time. They were still calling my cell phone thinking I was there. And I'm like, oh, you didn't hear? No, we didn't get a message, because they knew what they were doing was underhanded. And that's how they operate in City Hall. And if you guys think that's gonna change now, for what? He's been doing it for what, 12 years? Why would that change? And then if you see who he's with all the time, then you know what they're about too. I'm gonna keep it as real as I can, because you don't see me at the mayor events that he sponsors. You don't see me there. I don't care if it's Black History Month. I don't care what it is. You're not gonna see me supporting anything that Mayor Sarno does.
Question for the audience, why can't we get rid of him, find somebody to take his place?
Well,
Because I'm gonna kick it back, if you're disappointed with the mayor and the stuff that he's doing, y'all are his bosses. His bosses are quite content because they keep voting for me, keep doing the thing.
So how do you get rid of the mayor? You vote him out.
Yeah, when somebody else.
Vote for Councilor Hurst.
Lord.
Yeah.
Listen.
Huh?
That's my question.
Mhm.
Okay, we're talking about the mayor, right? Yes.
Yes.
We're talking about the mayor, right? We all know his little tactics, right?
His agenda, yes.
So who can we get from our community who understands us to take that place as running for mayor?
Okay, before I pass the mic, I'm gonna say whoever it is, we gotta stand in unity behind this person.
Right.
You know, we gotta put our personal feelings aside. We gotta put whatever we think personally aside, unless this person is a bad person as well. And we gotta come together and vote for this person, or it's not gonna work. So no matter who that person is, we gotta select this person as a community and as a whole and stand behind this person. And I know who I'm standing behind 100%.
What was your question? I think it goes back to the issue of voting, right? We can talk all we want about how we want to change leadership, but it comes down to two things. One, we got to get folks to the polls. And two, we need to support anybody that is getting ready to run for mayor financially. And until we do that, the reality of it happening is just next to nil. And so while we all want to see it, we also have to put our money where our mouths are at. You're absolutely right. There are a ton of people in Ward 3, and for that matter, the entire city, who are complacent, who are tired of the system, who don't have anybody that, you know, that they can believe in. We have to change that. We as counselors need to step up. We also need to put ourselves in position to be able to run for some of these offices. And it's not just the mayor's seat. I mean, there are a ton of constitutional offices. You look at these women out in Boston, primarily of color, who are pushing the envelope when not only does it come for running for mayor, but for these other constitutional offices in the Commonwealth of Mass, for these other county seats that are oftentimes occupied by folks that don't look like us. The district attorney's seat here in Hampden County, the sheriff's seat here in Hampden County. There are a number of other seats that folks ought to be looking at. We also need to groom some folks to give that torch to. What we've struggled with as a community is we have folks that are in office and want to stay in office and not transfer that power until they die. That is problematic. You need folks that are willing to fill in the gaps when somebody else is not able to hold that torch any longer. And if we don't do it now, we're going to find a tremendous void that we're not going to be able to fill. So as it relates to the mayor, we need a qualified candidate to push the envelope. We can't keep writing press releases about the mayor and talking bad about the mayor if we're not prepared to run for mayor.
Right.
I'm well aware of that.
Gonna get a question. Okay, and then we're gonna get you there.
I just want to say really quickly, look at what happened in Holyoke. When Garcia when they had the preliminary, he wasn't the top dog. It didn't even look like to some people that he was even gonna win. But you know what? Latino people from all over the state came to Holyoke. They were knocking on doors. They were getting people registered. They were doing everything that they needed to do to help get that man elected. That is what we need to have happen, not just in Springfield, but people all around, for Waterbury, people from New Haven, people from Rhode Island, that we know they need to come, put their money where their mouth is, put their feet to the pavement, knock on doors, because one person can't win a campaign by themselves. You need a whole movement, you need a whole posse, and you need a lot of money. And so when people say why people can't do it or why they won't win, understand there's a lot of other things that come with politics. It's not just about putting your name on a paper and saying, I want to run. It's also all of these other things. So those things have to happen, not just the Black community in Springfield, because unfortunately, we're not as big as we used to be. It has to be also other people bringing their resources to our community, just like what we saw. Holyoke gave us a very easy blueprint to follow.
It's been said a lot, and how do we get power? It's been said many years ago. Power yields to nothing but a demand. You have to take power. No one's going to give you anything. You want that mayor seat? If it's Justin, if it's Daryl, if it's Chris, whoever it is, we got to go take it. No one's going to do anything. You know, Holyoke, they raised up. And we have, as Justin alluded to, Black women in Boston. They're running for what? Lieutenant Governor, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Auditor, every seat imaginable. Some will be successful, some are not. When are we in Springfield going to start stepping up and running for stuff? You have you have Attorney General, you have the sheriff, you have district attorney, you have state reps. You have all this stuff going in mayor. And we just lay back on the sideline. We become a little complacent in Springfield, very complacent. We'll get on the sidelines and complain and talk and complain. To test the man or woman who's in the arena, who's battle tested, who gets in the fight, not on the side. It's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback. We just need a little courage to step up and get out. And we can take whatever we want to take, but we're going to do it unified. The first thing we're going to do, Minister Stokes, is we want to unify on that police commission to make sure we get some of the old folks and some of the young folks on that to make it a good police commission. Because let me tell you, the police commission has real power. I remember when Henry Thomas was chairman of the police commission, he did real good stuff. They run the department. They do the hiring. They do the firing, they do the promotions, the discipline, and all of that goes through the commission. Real power. Once the mayor appoints them, they're on their own. He can call and make recommendations, but they do their own thing. It's very powerful, and they can right the wrong. One last situation. Back a few years ago, we had a police commission. Someone called Reverend Swan and threatened to burn his church down. It was a police officer. They traced it. They followed it back. He was out in the Indian Orchard then. They traced it. They followed it back. You know what happened to the police officer? He got fired by the police commission. Fired him. And Albano was mayor. So the police commission has real power, real authority. And that big the stuff that went on and all that stuff that kind of like swept under the rug would not happen. They're independent. They work for themselves. The mayor can appoint them now. But they have real power. That's a rallying point for us because we fought for years. I go back 15 years ago talking about the police commission. And I knew what it meant when you had a real police commission, which is transparency. They're the buffer for the community. and they speak for this community, for the whole city. But this is real.
Tanisha.
I do want to point out that the police commission worked when there was a different mayor, so there might be a connection between those two things, I'm just saying. I want to get to you, ma'am, and then we're going to start to wrap this up.
My name is Rhonda Ladney, and I'm one of those persons that do not vote. However, I do hit the pavement and go to the community to give them factual information to help change in the community. One thing you can know, Bud Williams and Justin Hurst, when we had that casino come into Springfield, the 5 people that we have working with us against the casino brought out almost 50% more voters from us speaking truth and energizing the community. And that's what we do. There's no truth in our Black papers, in our Black radio station, and at the school committee. Because I've gone to the school committee, I've gone to city council, and because when I speak, there's enough people that's listened. I've been shut down multiple times over and over again. I would go to the school committee, and Mayor Sano would make sure that I don't speak. And the school committee members are right there and watching it. Same thing when I called the school city council members about what's going in place when you want to change and take out Cheryl Caparu from the police commissioner. You had the best opportunity with 109-year-old Alberta Howard and the elderly abuse that she was subjected through the police force. None of you stood up for her. None of you, except Miss Tracye. And she was 109 years old, the oldest woman in the city of Springfield, in the state of Massachusetts, and you hid her history, and nobody did nothing to look at that elderly abuse that was taking place against her in the district attorney's office, and probate family court, in the Springfield Police Department. So the community is tired because we heard your voices, and we see, and I've been living in Springfield for the past all my life, and I'm 61, and I see how it has gone down, and all the money that has been coming to the city of Springfield, because there's no truth being spoken and our voices are being silent. But I do get out and I go to the community and I go from door to door and doing all that I can in my personal funds. And I don't need accolades from anybody. If I hear the truth and what matters, I'm out there. And there's no truth in our Black communities, and we need better Black leadership. That's my personal belief, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, I will point out, you were not silenced in this space. I would love to have more conversation with you to hear about what your truths are. So thank you for that.
I just want to say one thing, please. Now, can we agree to black the mayor out?
Yeah.
This is what I mean by that is this.
Right.
We have to stop inviting him to our functions. He comes into our churches. And then what that does is that shows that everything that he does is okay. When Orlando Taylor III was murdered, not even 3 hours after the young man was murdered, Dominic Sarno and Cheryl Clapper came out and said it was a justifiable homicide. The district attorney had to call the city solicitor and various people from our own black community that violated the Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 4, impeding into a murder of a community resident. And State Representative Williams, you stood with him at the time of that young man's murder. Now, I just want to say this. I love you. You're my brother. I want the best for all of us. But when you stand with the mayor and participate in his chicanery, it does the whole community a disservice. You got the power. We're in a time now, Mr. Williams, where the people are aggravated and tired, and nobody is perfect. We all sin and fall short of the glory of God. But we can help you to help our community. You don't got to do nothing that the mayor says, and tell Marcus and Marlo and the rest of them to stop falling into his trap. fighting against Tracye and Justin on the city council. We have to stop fighting ourselves. We in leadership who have a voice, when we side with the mayor, when we side with Richard Neal, when we take pictures with Sheriff Cochee, what that says is that we're okay with white supremacy and systematic racism and what's continuing to go on in our community. You've been, and I share this because people think I'm against you. You used to feed my family. You used to help us when you had a store. You've been a pioneer in this community, and nobody is better than you. But we can do better together. We got to stop standing with this dude, man. He's not doing us no good.
All right.
And we can do better together.
That's right. Amen, Brother Stokes. I said, can we all get free? We need to get off the plantation. Sir, you had a question. You're going to be our final question.
Yes, I have a question more like than a statement behind it. I know a couple of years ago, the Springfield Election Commission was being investigated. And I think we should look at this. There's a systematic suppression of African American and Latino voters in this city. While the complacent of African American and Latino Hispanics not voting at large scale, they should be voting. It's too scarce for us. When you have a systematic system that's suppressing the people information coming from the city hall to the community, we got to stop that. We got to stop that. And that's why that may give people more encouragement to vote. Like the young lady said, what happened in Holyoke, the Latino and the Spanish brothers and sisters, they took the page from the African American struggle in the 40s, 50s, and 60s by knocking on doors, picking people up, taking them from church to the voting polls. We got to get back to the whole thing. It's simple there. And also, think about this now. The Democratic Party, the Republican Party, the Progressive Independent, they all get together and support Ukraine's right to vote. Think about that now. But they can't get together to compare John Lewis bill. They go Russia invade the country. No, this is real.
No, I know.
Because our black sons and black daughters in the military might be going to protect the borders.
Mm-hmm. Fighting for democracy in
For
somebody else's
democracy.
country. But when you come back
the
here,
men, the black men and the Spanish men and women who got uniform go on and hold a European country right to vote and send the money to them. The stock market lost $7 trillion a day on the foreign exchange, on equity, on option and stock market. $7 trillion a day. That's global, but feel locally. Because how many of us in this room have people in our family who are soldiers now? Maybe going over to Eastern European countries, supporting Caucasian countries, right to vote.
right? And the past is present. History matters. This is not the
This
first time
same
we've
thing
ever
that my
done
father
this.
went through when he fought the Second World War. Went to European countries, came back, he could buy a house in Brooklyn.
That's right. History matters. It literally is happening again. So I'm
Tanisha,
gonna open up.
Before you leave, just I know we have to shut down. I promised everybody 90 minutes we'd be in and out. We're like almost 25 minutes over. I just have a question to Brett Williams, since we didn't get to him. Can you talk about state earmarks? How organizations will go about attaining those earmarks, what the process is, how you guys decide who gets them and who doesn't. There's been a number of Black institutions over the years that have never been funded and can't get a dime. So can you just talk about how we navigate that landscape to see if we can access some of those funds? And one of the institutions is right here in PAHMUSA.
That's a good question. And it's like anything else. Earmarks are like earmarks that certain individuals within their legislative district have the ability to make requests of the administration. And that happens. There's been a lot of folks who have received earmarks. And there's only so much money to go around. And I've been in conversation with PAHMUSA to get them in the pipeline, so to speak. And it's like anything else. This situation is it's not in my district technically. This is the Carlos Gonzalez's district, and Adam Gomez is the senator. So typically earmarks are within your district, your little silo, so to speak. So we're trying to do a better job. We've been very successful. Associations of Black Businessmen, have had earmarks. We've been able to help some of the Stone Soul. We've helped Family Center, Veterans, the Urban League, Neighborhood Housing Services. We've done a pretty good job. Since I've come in, I've tried to do a better job. As I said, there's only so much money that goes around. So we'll do the best that we can do. With ARPA money, we were very successful. We've had your paper reported on some of the earmarks that we have done.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a better job. Can we do better? Yes, but you need more money. And there's so much need within this community. Meaning my district is 11 Hamden district, which is predominantly Mason Square, and a lot of Hispanics are there. So it's calling me and seeing what I can do. As I said, we do the best that we can do. We've been very successful. And hopefully with the ARPA money, we'll be even more successful.
So
That's what it is.
So at some point, is it okay if we bring you back for a different discussion, just talking about how to navigate? We really want to talk about that legislative landscape. I see how other folks are bringing tons of money home for organizations in their community.
Well, when you say tons of money, where? I'd like to know where the tons of money are.
Oh, I can email you a list. We've been researching everybody's so that's another story. But I just want to.
I look at every earmark in Springfield, Massachusetts.
Right, I do too.
You can't compare Boston and Springfield.
I'm not trying to debate with you.
Yeah.
What I want to do is give people a better understanding of the funds that are available in Boston, be it earmarked through state departments.
Yeah, but you know what? And it gets to here's what the bigger question is.
I'm curious.
Tell me. There's a lot of cultural money, millions and millions of dollars. We've talked. We haven't applied. There's so much money. We need to do a better job. Me, individuals in the community, to find out where money is, and that's the big trick. There's money. Back years ago, we had agencies that would go out and do work that they want the politicians to do now.
Mm-hmm.
So they want us to go find the money, see where it is, and help you apply for the money. That's not our job. There is assets, and we do more forums like this need to take place. There's millions and millions of dollars. And as I said, when it was the CARES Act came out first, I talked about it, radio, we had webinars, community workshops. Then there was a rescue money came. Then the ARPA money came. And now there's going to be the infrastructure. And every time I'm on that radio program, I said, there is money out here. We have to apply. What does that mean? We have to have the ability to write for money and opportunities, which the infrastructure and the capacity that we have to do it is kind of like missing.
Yes.
But we need to do a better job of it. There's mental health, but there's money. And what happens in the cultural thing, we're gonna do a webinar on that. So what I've tried to do with the state is let them know, listen, when money is made available, there's certain organizations throughout the whole state, they kind of like get it. And a lot of these grants are tailored for people who know how to write. They just know how to write for these grants. We got to get out of that because you know what? Our capacity with our community to write for grants is kind of like lacking. And we don't, even with the ARPA money, I think Justin was finding out, Tracye, that we don't have a whole lot of people that have the ability to write. And the city can't write the grant for you. The state can't write it for you. They can help you. So we need to do a much better job. And I'm planning to do that, working with some folks now who are trying to get people on the ground to write, to apply for money. It's there. Maybe that didn't answer your question, but we can have a further conversation. And I'd like, there are people in this room that I've helped get earmarks. We'll continue.
We're not saying, I didn't say you did it. I just want to know how to go about it. But
I'm
we're
just
good.
saying, it's earmarks, like earmarks in Congress, the state, or the city.
Mm-hmm.
If your neighborhood Justin wants the East Forest Park to get something, or Mason Square, he goes and he talks to who he has to talk to make it happen. But we need to have a broader conversation. I agree with you.
Absolutely. Okay.
Because it's great. And I want to thank this forum again, because it's great. No, thank you.
I'm gonna do my closing remarks.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. But before I do my closing remarks, I want to piggyback off of earmarks. So every organization that is looking for earmark, talk to your legislator, your House and your Senate representatives in the area that you live. Now, I looked at State Rep Buzz Williams' earmarks. And one thing that had me highly upset was Black COVID-19 Coalition was earmarked $100,000 of ARPA money. And Parent Villages, I didn't see that on the earmark list. And then I looked at it again and I seen $800,000 going to the Urban League, earmarked by State Rep Buzz Williams and Senator Eric Lesser. And then Mass Mutual is giving them $500,000. So it's like these organizations and the same players are getting this money. Now, I told y'all, I'm going to keep it as real as I can. It might not be his job to do the work to find the finances out. It's going to be mine. I've also talked to some local organizations to offer us technical assistance because guess what? They're getting technical assistance money to help write grants from the city of Springfield. Valley Venture Mentors, for one. However, they're not marketing to the Black and brown community. They got CDBG funds of $100,000. Now I got a whole list of CDBG funds and we could tell you some of the organizations that getting a lot of money. Our Citizens Council get about $1 million from the city of Springfield a year. But then they got another organization that gets all the money for housing projects. No, I'm talking about Our Citizens Council. They got another organization. I can't remember the name, but it's new something. But it's their 501c3 that they created just to get money to develop housing projects that they can then sell to their people for really, really low income. Now, if you guys think I'm not out here doing the work and doing my research, you are wrong. And if you think I'm not going to bring it to the community, every chance I get, vote me out. I don't care. I'm still going to do it. Vote me out. I'm going to do more. I'm really going to stick it to you. I'm going to be at everything. Okay. I'm really going to stick it to you now. I'm not sitting here to make friends or tell lies or act like we can do better and I'm doing better, because we can do better. We can do more, but we got to tell the truth. You guys can get access to everybody's earmarks. Okay. They're in mass.gov. They're in the budget and you can request them from the state legislators yourself. Now I got a friend that will send me anything I ask for on the state side. So anytime you want to know what Eric Lesser, Carlos Gonzalez, Bud Williams, Adam Gomez, Orlando Ramos earmarked, because these are our state people, right? We can get it. Ask for it. Start doing research on how funding gets out, how to ask for it, where it's at. If we don't ask the questions that we want to know, we'll never get the answers. Sometimes we don't know what we want to know, but ask me, because I'm digging deep into the finance, because we need to develop our community economically. Yes. We got to grow economically. We got to build generational wealth. We got to do these things, and we cannot keep sitting back and believing everything that we hear from everybody that says it, because they've been here for a long time. I'm not saying State Rep Buzz Williams has not helped the community, because he definitely has. I know stories of how he kept people in their houses and how he kept people out of jail and things like that. I'm not saying that, but we got to tell the truth. $800 to the Urban League, 800,000? Yeah. 800,000? And we don't really see the Urban League a lot in our community. I love Henry Thomas as a person. Okay, I do. I really do. I like him a lot as a person. But I want to see him do what he's supposed to do for our community, because I get paid way less as a city councilor, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for our community. Okay, so let's hold him accountable. And with that, I'm going to say thank you, D. Moss. Thank you, Sam from PAHMUSA, for hosting this event. I will come anytime y'all want me to tell the truth about finances, because that's my specialty. And that's where I'm going to focus, because we need economic growth in our community, and it can't keep going to the same people over and over and over again. Parent Villages is a great organization out here that's doing a lot for the community on a very low budget. And why they weren't earmarked? More is a great organization, and we keep giving them $5,000 and $10,000 when we can give them $50,000 and $100,000. That's not going to work for me anymore. On the mayor's level, on the state level, shoot, if I got to go to the federal level, I'll talk to Richie Neal too. I don't care. Okay, so this is the things that we have to really start doing our own research and getting the information on where the finances are and really going and what friends' pockets are getting padded and this, that, and the third. Because as a community, we all need it and we should all be taking care of each other. And I'm gonna close by saying thank you for having me today. Please call me personally, 413-221-4443. And let's talk about it more. Let's get to the table. Let's support each other. Let's help each other. And let's hold the mayor accountable on this police commission. If you start tonight sending the email, dsarno@springfieldcityhall.com. And I also have M. Sarno, so both are right, but I think D. Sarno goes directly to him. So dsarno@springfieldcityhall.com. Start emailing him tonight that we want transparency. We want to know what the process is to appoint people, and we want to make sure he's just not appointing his friends and the same people that he's been appointing over and over and over again. And with that, I'm gonna drop the mic. Bam.
You want me to say something now?
I was about to say, there's a reason why I'm optimistic about the city of Springfield. But for Councilor Whitfield, you know, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we're doing on the city council. I'm giving my time.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to sit on this panel. It is conversations like this that empower our community, that edify our community and bring us together in unity. And so at the end of the day, we have to allow folks, regardless of what your opinion is, your perspective and all of that, everybody has to be able to sit in a room and be able to have these conversations because we don't know everything. I can sit in the seat that I sit in making pennies because we don't get paid to do what we do. It's not a job. I have a full-time job, 4 children, a husband, and a lot of other stuff, and a nonprofit that I'm running. So it's not as if that's my only job, right, to sit on the school committee. But I will say is that there's a lot of things that are happening that people are just not aware of. So we have to be very careful when we start to tear down our leaders that are actually trying to do something and try to understand what is actually happening, that we can undergird and make sure that we are bringing all of our children up to the next level. Because when we start to tear down people, we're doing exactly what they want us to do. And we cannot do that. If there's a challenge, if there's a problem, we need to be able to sit in a room without a cell phone, without public media, and have those conversations and hold one another accountable, because that is what other people do in those rooms. And then when they come out, they all look like they like each other, and they don't. But in our rooms, we like to call each other out and embarrass and humiliate one another. And we have to be able to sit together, have those conversations, and be able to hold each other accountable, because we should do that. And then we do what I do my job and you do your job, right? We all have a job to play. It still takes a village. We all have to be a part of this village. We all have to do the work. So thank you, Daryl. Thank you, Sam. Thank you to my colleagues on here. I appreciate everything that you do.
I thank you. Thank you. Thank the panel, Sam. Thank us all. And I think LaTonia has said it all. I think we need to have some conversations, but we need some closed door conversations, and without a lot of mics and a lot of fanfare. But thank you, LaTonia. And my mama told me, you live in a glass house, don't throw no stones.
I want to thank Daryl and everybody for having me up here. It's amazing that I'm in Waterbury, Connecticut, and this is the exact same thing that goes on in Waterbury. I was like, damn, Waterbury is the only place that this happens? And I'm like, you guys are worse. You guys, I was shocked. It was like culture shock. It was like culture shock. I'm like, man, this is the exact same thing. And one thing we do need to do as elected officials, we need to work together, regardless of where you are, and just try to make the community better. Get out there and help, knock on the door. I'll come up and knock on the door for somebody. If you come down to Waterbury and knock on the door for me. That's how it works. That's how it works. And that's how we change things.
Right, we do need to have these conversations. We can lovingly hold each other accountable, right? Accountability without compassion is dominance, and compassion without accountability is collusion. We don't want to do that. I thank y'all for being a part of this audience. City council, school committee, state reps have made themselves available, get their contact information, email the mayor, show up at room 214, that is the people's space, right? We have that right register to vote, get registered. You can come to a ride, you can call. I'll make myself available. We can continue these conversations. We can change what Springfield looks like. We need to change what it looks like. So, thank you all for coming out. And God bless you. Good night.
That's crazy.